Hi guys, this is Sherman Carlos. On today's video, I'm going to give you my rolling review of The Mummy. So here we go, guys. This is my first rolling review of a Universal Pictures movie. So I hope you enjoy. Throughout Hollywood history, which I consider part of U.S. history. Throughout Hollywood history, we have had villains throughout movie history. To be even more specific, even monsters that are evil. We've had Frankenstein, Nosferatu, The Blob, The Thing, the monster blue of the Blue Lagoon, the Wolfman, Predator, Alien, just like the movie, aliens, and all that kind of creepy stuff. But we also have had evil villains like the Riddler, the Joker, so on and so on. But sometimes again, villains can be separated in different categories, just like superheroes or heroes/heroines. And to be more specific than I already am, there's one specific category that I would like to focus on, in particular, with my rolling review of the Mummy. We have also had bald villains. Yes. You can have hair. You can have hair and be evil. The Joker has hair. The Joker has hair. But anyway, you can be evil. You can be evil with hair and without hair. And to be more, and in this list that I'm about to give you, which I'm gonna finish with the name of this specific rolling review that I'm doing right now. We have had villains that are bold, like Red Skull, Brainiac, the Penguin, Danny DeVito's Penguin. I consider Danny DeVito half bald, even though he has a little bit of hair. But anyway, the Penguin, Danny DeVito's Penguin. The purple dope of the MCU, also known as Thanos, Dr. Evil, Lex Luthor, Dr. Van Doofus, Dr. Van Doom. But there's only one there's only one villain that splits the two categories that I have talked about and turned it in and if we combine bald, if we combine a bald villain and monster, you get Emotep. Yes, Emotep. The high priest to Ramses, the pharaoh of all pharaohs, who in turn transforms into the mummy. Now, to get into more detail, to add more flavor to this review, let me give you a little bit of background to Emotep. Again, Emotep is the high priest to Ramses the pharaoh, Ramses II, who is the pharaoh of Egypt. Now, being high priest is high honor, and to be a part of any pharaoh's social advisor slash social circle. But in Emotep's case, he had all of this. He had all that he wanted, except for one thing that had eluded him. The one thing that he craved more than power, more than his high priestiness, and that is love. Like we all do. But he picked the wrong love for himself. And that love has a name. And her name is Oxamun, and tragically for our beloved, our creepy, our evil and bald Emotep. Oxamun, to his baldy misfortune, to Emotep's baldy misfortune, was Ramses' wife, one of his many wives. And the one thing that captivated our baldy friend was Oxamun's beauty. And of course, in turn, Oxamun melted for our baldy friend, our baldy friend, Emotep. And they had been having a secret affair. Like in any good Spanish novella or soap opera. Until one shiny starry deep starry and dark beautiful star shining bright night that Ramses discovered that his beloved Oxamun had been touched by a man. Now, the one thing that you could not do to Ramsey, or that would cross Ramsey's line of code of trust was to touch Aksum-Moon. The only one that could touch Aksum-Moon was Ramsey. No man could touch Aksum-Moon. Again, the only man that could touch Aksum-Moon was Ramsey. So Ramsey had discovered that his beloved Aksum-Moon had been touched, and he saw that. He also saw that Imhotep was in Aksum-Moon's quarters, meaning bedroom, and eventually, Imhotep and his beloved Aksum-Moon impaled Ramsey to death. But in a twist of romantic fate, Ramsey's royal guards had an inkling, or had a hint, or had an inkling that Aksum-Moon and Imhotep were in collusion and plotting and eventually plotting the death of Ramsey, which in fact did just happen. But also Imhotep, our beloved, our baldy friend Imhotep, had his followers too. But again, Imhotep had his followers too. And in this case, Imhotep's followers were bald like him, but covered in gold. And they did whatever Imhotep had asked them to do. In this particular night, Imhotep had strict orders to his followers that they needed to stand guard to guard the doors to his beloved Aksum-Moon's quarters / room. So when Ramses bursted into his beloved Aksum-Moon's quarters door, meaning room doors, he discovered, and you know the rest. But again, we're now going back to where I was at. The royal guards had an inkling that both Aksum-Moon and Imhotep would do such a thing. Kill Ramsey. So the guards were banging the door. The royal guards were banging the door, and saying, Imhotep, we know you're in there. We know you're in there. Come out, or we will run through this door to get you and detain you. And they did. but before the Ramses' royal guards could get into the door, could get into Aksamun's quarter doors or room doors. Aksamun did sacrifice herself and impaled herself with a sword or an axe. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was a sword. And before she impaled herself with this sword, she said to Imhotep, "My love, we will see each other. We will see each other again in the afterlife." And then the royal guard by this time the royal guard had gained access to Aksamun's quarters, and they took Imhotep and his golden followers away, far away from the royal city, from the royal city. But that same night, Imhotep and his golden followers had escaped where they were being detained, and Imhotep had the book of Amun-Ra, or in English terms, the Book of the Dead. Yes, Imhotep and his followers had captured or had obtained the Book of Amun-Ra, the Book of the Dead. So they both Imhotep and his golden followers basically stole Aksamun's corpse and took her to the city of the dead, Hamunaptra, where Imhotep laid his beloved Aksamun's creepy and beautiful corpse, according to him, again, onto this pedestal, and started to read the scripture. Read the scripture from the Book of Amun-Ra, or the Book of the Dead, which it was a whole ritual. And basically, the ritual is and was that just like the title says of the Book of Amun-Ra, the Book of the Dead. This book is the book that brings the souls of its dead host back to their body. Yes, back to their body. And that was the whole goal of of Imhotep to bring his beloved Oxamun Moon's soul back to her undead body. But before he, meaning Imhotep, and his followers could complete the return soul process to his beloved Oxamanun's beautiful and undead corpse. Ramses, the pharaoh's royal guardsmen stormed the pyramid. And they took away Imhotep's chants and his followers away, and they closed the book of Amun-Ra. And for this treason, and for this type of action, Imhotep and his followers would pay the price and be condemned and be cursed with the curse of curses, according to Egyptian legend, which would make Imhotep, if ever awaken again from his awake from his evil curse, his evil resting place. He would bring the curse of all curses to life once again. Yes, you guys. Basically, the royal Ramses royal guards performed this ritual that led to Imhotep having this curse of all curses onto him and onto his followers, and basically buried him alive, mummified him, basically wrapped him up like a mummy, and buried him alive, and basically performed and basically cut his tongue off. Yes, I know it sounds disturbing and creepy. Cut his tongue off so he wouldn't scream, and basically wrapped him up and laid him into a coffin and buried him alive, covered in creepy crawly flesh eating beetles. Then, of course, by this time, it had been 300 years. Now to the present Egypt, according to the movie. It has been 300 years since Ramses' royal guardsmen put this curse upon Imhotep and his followers. And no one since the beginning of the curse had heard of Imhotep's name again until we see Brian O'Connell, aka Brandon Fraser, get into the mix, and his scary cat of a friend Benny, and then we have a lovely pretty girl named Evie, who in present times is working for a librarian in one of Egypt's prestigious library of Egyptian history named Evie. And then we have her brother Jonathan, who, unlike her, doesn't have a job. He believed that he's rich until all four of them get into a mess. And this mess, in turn, that all three of them get into, to be more specific, Evie believes that the book of Amun-Ra, or the Book of the Dead, is not a myth. It does exist. Way deep in the corners of Egypt. And both Evie and Jonathan want to find the book of Amun-Ra for first to Evie's reason why she wants to find the book of Amun-Ra. She wants to prove to her librarian boss that it does exist, and she wants to prove to him and to herself that she was right, that everything that I have searched, that I have researched myself, all by myself, is true, and that I'm not making this up, and I'm doing this for my mom and dad too, because they believed in me. Meanwhile, her brother Jonathan wants to find the book of Amun-Ra so he could brag about it. So he could brag about it, and obviously take some pictures with it, but also get get the rich, the richie rich, the richie rich street cred that he craves. Now, Brian O'Connell, Brandon Fraser had been incarcerated for something that he did. And again, he and Benny, when they were fighting on the same side of when they were fighting on the same side during the war of Egypt and other and during their battles with Egyptian separatists. Benny and O'Brien had heard of the book of Hamanoptera, the book of Amun-Ra. But since then, Brian O'Connell had been incarcerated for something that he did. And Evie and Jonathan needed someone, needed a guide to lead them to Hamunaptra, the city of the dead, where deep beneath a pyramid, it is said that the book of Hamunaptra is said to be in or nearby in another pyramid. So, what does Evie do? And Jonathan do? What do Evie and Jonathan do? They get Brian out of his incarcerated predicament, and they convince him to journey with them and guide them and be their protector as well, and guide them to the book of Amun-Ra. But many other explorers, other explorers from here in the United States, from here in the States, and many local and a few locals, and a few basically this group of 3 Americans and their party and the rest of their party wanted to get the book of Amun-Ra. But the Magi, which are descendants of the Pharaoh's royal guardsmen, are the hidden and secret protector protectors of Egypt, and they have tried and succeeded to to stop curious explorers from uncovering and capturing the Book of Ra, and from opening it. Because again, if the Book of Ra, they would awaken Imhotep and his army of the undead. But again, in a twist of funny foreshadowing, Evie and Jonathan did exactly that, because when Brian and the rest of the people that were following them, meaning all three of them, even Benny at this point, they found the Book of Ra, but to Evie's curiosity, that killed her version of the cat, of a curious cat. She read the unholy scripture from the Book of Ra, and she awakened our beloved, our old friend, our old baldy friend Imhotep. Again, who at this point was covered in sand. And again, since he was covered in sand, he needed to regain his skin. Yes, Imhotep needed to regain his skin. What I mean by skin, he had to transform into an undead human again. So what did he do? What does an undead mummy do? Undead Imhotep do? He eats from the living. First, he scared the holy banana split from out of Brian and Evie and Jonathan. In a little bit forward in the movie, a little bit ahead in the movie, but then again, he's filled with sand. He's covered in flesh eating beetles. His skull is sandy and filled with holes, and he's speaking creepy Egyptian. But basically, so what does Imhotep do? He basically sucks the skin off of innocent people. And to be more specific, one of Evie's and Jonathan's and Brian's competitors from this group of 3 Americans with a guy themselves. and this guy has glasses just like me. And what does he do? He first of all, this guy gets lost in running as he's running away with the rest of the with the rest of his party, and of course Brian and Evie and Jonathan, and he drops his glasses, and this poor guy, he can't see with his glasses, and unluckily for him, his vision obviously says he can't see very well. He sees blurry. He sees blurry, and unluckily for him, he gets, his skin gets sucked out by gets sucked, his eyes get uneyed, or gets uneyed by Emotep, and he's left without a tongue as well. By this time, Benny, Brian's friend, by the next time Emotep saw this guy, this same guy that he had taken his eyes out, and had taken this guy's tongue out of his mouth. Benny, Brian's friend, had aligned himself with our baldy friend, unsandy baldy friend, and the second time that Emotep had encountered this guy with glasses just like me, he finished the job. He sucked him out. He dried him out. Yes. This poor guy with glasses, with just like me, was dried up to the bone, to his bones by Emotep. By this time, Emotep had almost regained his old living skin. Except for one more thing, he needed one more thing. He needed a human sacrifice, a human vessel to transfer his beloved Oxymoon soul into. And unluckily for Evie, she was the vessel chosen by Emotep to transfer his beloved Oxymoon's soul to. And the only one that could save the entire world from Emotep's Imhotep himself and his unholy curse upon the earth. Not just Egypt itself, were Brian and Jonathan. And of course, Brian had to save Evie from our old unsandy baldy friend. And Brian almost did the first time. Almost did save Evie from becoming Oxamun's human vessel. Almost the first time. But Imhotep opened his mouth, opened his flesh-eating and sandy mouth, and basically shaped the sands of Egypt, shaped the sands of Egypt to look like his face, but in a sandy form. And basically Imhotep created a tornado with his sandy mouth, and his sandy form of his own mouth, with a sand tornado that led to Brian's friend, World War II friends, World War II warplane to fall and to crash down to crash into the sands of Egypt. And tragically for Brian's sake, his old World War II buddy died instantly from the crash, and he was buried in the sand, thanks to because he crashed into quicksand. Then Brian and Jonathan and Benny somewhat. Benny had basically had second thoughts in joining Imhotep. And then Brian and Jonathan went after Imhotep. And then when all hope was lost, Brian, by this time, the Magi's leader had joined the efforts to get rid of Imhotep and his unholy army. And by the way, Evie's boss, or Evie's boss from the library, was a secret Magi member, hidden in plain sight, and secret protector of Egypt from secret protector of Egypt from Imhotep. So in a twist of fate, so in a twist of sandy fate, the Magi leader saw a tattoo that Brian had on his arm that it was a Magi symbol. And then the Magi leader told Brian that you're a protector of man. You're a protector of mankind, Brian. So after this bold statement from the Magi leader, Brian was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't even have Magi blood, meaning Egyptian blood running through my body. But going back to where I was at, when all hope was lost, deep inside the pyramid where Imhotep had taken EV2 to perform the soul transfer ritual. Brian and Jonathan discovered a wall with hieroglyphics that basically with hieroglyphic art basically laid out their plan for them. And basically the hieroglyphic said that the staff that Brian O'Connell had in his hand, it was actually a staff with a hidden sword. And all that he had to do was to impale Imhotep. So the unholy one, meaning Imhotep, would rest in his final resting place once again. So after seeing this hieroglyphic pair of wall of hieroglyphics, that's exactly what Brian did. He impaled Imhotep. he closed the book of Admiral. Both he and Jonathan closed the book of Admiral. They saved Evie from becoming the human vessel of Imhotep's beloved Admiral, beloved Oxamun, and Imhotep was dead again. But that's not all. Brian got the girl. He had fallen in love with Evie. And in a classic romantic way, to end a creepy action movie, Evie and Brian shared a passionate romantic kiss at sunset, as the sunset in Egypt. And guys, that's how this wonderful and this wonderful and sandy and unholy and scary and creepy and baldy for Imhotep movie ends. At least that's the end. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you have seen the Mummy. If you have seen the Mummy before, and if you could have your own mummy adventure movie, just like the Mummy, who would you fight to save the world from the earth? Who would you fight that wasn't Imhotep? That wasn't Imhotep that had the same powers as he had, but who wasn't Imhotep? Who would it be? Who would you fight? Who would you fight to save the world from his undead self and undead army? Who would it be for you? And again, it doesn't have to be Imhotep. It could be anyone you want. So with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to leave a like and Hamanoptera. Bye.